Oh, that's right. This is a webinar, not a meeting, so we can't see everyone as they're joining in. So we've got 5 people here. We'll just call it out as numbers. We've got folks joining in. Glad to have you all joining. I'm gonna do something that'll hopefully, oh, you can't even tell. But yeah, glad to have you joining here. It's 5 o'clock, just after on the West Coast here in beautiful San Francisco. David's on the other side of the bridge for me, and we're both excited to have you here. Got 9 of us in here right now, so we'll give it another couple minutes here and just awkwardly stall while people join in. And also, Art was here just a second ago. He had to use the bathroom, and he'll be right back. So, or actually, I think he was just getting water. So the opposite of using the bathroom. Yeah, so my name's Dan, one of the co-founders here at Outco. Grateful to have you joining us. Yeah, pretty excited. Art's been a longtime favorite of Outco, and yeah, it's been a number of years we've known him. He's went from a pretty cool journey he'll tell you about, going from basically non-engineer to he's now, I believe, putting in his package, or he will be putting in his package to be a senior engineer at Amazon, working on some pretty amazing stuff. And hopefully we'll all have a little better idea of how to get ourselves to that point as well. And you'll be able to ask him questions. Here he is. So pretty excited to have Art here. I'll share my screen. And for those of you who've been to one of our info sessions, you know the drill. I'm just gonna ask if you can confirm that you can see my screen here. It should say Outco Alumni Fireside Chat. Can y'all see it here? Just get a confirmation in the chat. It would look like this if you can see it. It would say yes. All right, thank you, Mason. Glad to see you here. Lots of yeses. All right, cool. So like I said, here for Art, basically, that's what this is all about, and Art's knowledge, Art's experience. We'll get started here with some introductions. We'll introduce Outco, Arturo, then we'll dive right in to the fireside chat here, and then we'll open up, and any questions you have for Art, he'll be more than happy to answer them. And so a little bit about us. We were founded in 2015 in San Francisco, as you can see. Coaching, skill sharpening service, like basically, we help software engineers level up in their career, whether they're, at the tail end of their career, senior engineers looking to wrap up in kind of a capstone way, or down at the beginning of their career looking to level up, or anything in between, or just get started, or anything in between leveling up. We're here to do it. The skills that we're alluding to there are CS fundamentals, data structures, algorithms, system design, object-oriented design, these types of things, along with interpersonal skills, career skills, things like confidence, communication, pieces that are easy to overlook, but things that like Amazon actually really make a big difference if you know how to prepare on those pieces, given Amazon's 14 leadership principles that they interview on. We've helped over 2,000 software engineers to date, and we have classes in both the Eastern time zone and the Pacific time zone. The next class starts this coming Monday on April 12th. So that's just us in a teeny nutshell. Odds are, if you're here, you probably already knew most of that, but just in case you didn't, there's a quick snapshot. I'm Dan, one of the founders here with David, and I guess I've been in tech for about 10 years now, known Art for 4 or 5 years, and yeah, I love the work I do. Very grateful to be here with you all. David, I don't know if you'd like to say anything about yourself.
Yep, thanks, Dan. My name's David, one of the co-founders as well at Outco. A bit about what I focus on in the job search process in terms of supporting engineers that are coming through the program. It's more like the very beginning, very end of the job search. So that means I help folks with rebuilding their resumes, really putting them together in a compelling way that really speaks to their technical abilities, what they've accomplished in past and current roles to help them get more interviews. And I help as well on the back end of the job search as it relates to negotiating on offers. So once folks have, 1, 2, 3, multiple offers, whatever it might be, how to best position yourself and strategize around the tail end of the job search process to help everyone earn more money.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you, David. Here's Art, the man of the hour. Glad, very, very grateful to have you here, Art. I don't know if we want to get started here, kind of at the beginning. Where does the story begin with you? Who is Arturo Perez?
Cool. Hey, what's up, guys? My name is Art. I'm an Outco grad. I believe it was in the 5th class, right? When everything kind of got started. It's kind of crazy to be speaking. I remember when I was out there, I grew up in Southern California, right? I moved to San Francisco. I was a boot camp grad. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with Dev Boot Camp. I know it's not around anymore. So just kind of coming from there, no college background, nothing, just kind of learn how to code off, Code Academy. And then from there, just kind of learn how to build like a static website, use Dev Boot Camp to kind of get me going. Honestly, Dan, do you kind of want me to go like even a little bit before that, kind of like what I was doing before I did Dev Boot Camp?
Sure. Yeah. How'd you meander your way into tech?
Yeah, so that's that's pretty cool, right? Like as far as tech goes, anything prior, I had no tech experience. I feel like the only thing related to what I do now is I was able to like sit behind a computer and play video games all day. That was pretty much about it. I was actually, my last job before I kind of got into here, actually my last job literally before I got into Amazon was, I used to work at a warehouse making furniture. So that's me. I'm Latino, Mexican. Usually we're doing like labor kind of work. That's kind of what I grew up around. And then I'm not gonna lie, I remember just kind of I met some guys in tech. I saw some guys, I grew up in Southern California. I saw some guys like at a rooftop bar. These guys were just chilling in sweats, hanging out on a laptop, ordering every single drink in the house when I was stressing over like a $20 drink, right? I'm not gonna lie, I just kind of walked up to them. I said like, hey, what do you guys do? What are you guys doing? They pretty much showed me they're software developers at a startup in LA. From there, they kind of sent me some resources. They sent me some links. That's where Code Academy kind of came out. I tried it out. This thing seemed pretty cool. I saw the salaries behind it, and I kind of looked into it a little bit more. That's where Dev Bootcamp came around, and then pretty much I literally grabbed my savings. I quit my job, and I just moved over to San Francisco, and then that's where I did Dev Bootcamp, and where I pretty much ran into Outco.
Nice. And what was the job search like for you while you were, coming out of that boot camp? What was that whole experience like for you?
I don't want to knock on every single boot camp, right? Like I think I got to look at the curriculum now. I haven't looked at boot camps in a while, but I'll speak definitely for Dev Bootcamp. I'm not a fan of it whatsoever. I feel like it definitely, the marketing behind Dev Bootcamp though, it was, how do I say, they lived up to what it said, right? So it kind of says like, hey, you know what, learn how to code and you can get a job, right? So I feel like a lot of people, they want, and I could speak for the people that were in my class and so on going forward. You expect to finish the boot camp, you have enough to code, and then afterwards you get a job right after, right? I feel like the vision was kind of like, they definitely show you the very minimal, so you can kind of go ahead and learn how to like build like a full stack framework, right? You kind of go from there, full stack application. And then right after you're done, you're kind of like, all right, cool, like I learned enough, now what I do, where are these jobs at? And I remember like literally me and my course be like, heck yeah, we're all graduating next week. Next week happened, and we're just like, okay, so how do we start the job process? And they're kind of kicking us out. They're just like, oh, hold on, well, the next cohort has to come in, right? That kind of was kind of, we didn't really get the support where, in the job hunt, where there's like, well, you guys know enough, like write your own resume, I don't know, go on LinkedIn, I'm pretty sure you guys will be good. And for me, I literally moved, like I said, I used my savings to live out in San Francisco. I probably had enough to just live in like I was sharing like a closet sized room with somebody else. And day by day, I'm struggling to stay in San Francisco. So it was kind of like, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? So like trying to lean on Dev Bootcamp for a job hunt, it didn't go so well. That's actually Outco is one of the big reasons on, why I'm such a huge fan, is because of lifetime support, right? So for me, I'm an Amazon engineer. I've been here for about 4 years. I'm actually on the verge of becoming a senior engineer, right? It's just a matter of paperwork now. But at the same day, it's like if I want to interview somewhere else tomorrow, I can still go back to Outco and be like, all right, help me out. I'm a little bit rusty. Let's go ahead and go.
And what type of traction were you getting when you come out of boot camp? What was that like? I understand there's a boot camp struggle.
Yeah, what traction, right? Yeah, it was hard. I mean, again, I feel like as a bootcamp grad, though, there's a lot of different people. There's even people who had experience, there's people, especially who had degrees. And I feel like all of us were struggling no matter what. Like some people can get traction, submitting an application, but at the same time, it's like, I have friends who, we did the boot camp, they definitely applied. I would say that at least the guys who had like degrees or past experience were at least getting, interviews, but they weren't going anywhere with them. For me personally, I definitely had a huge struggle, especially coming from a no tech background, coming from no degree, no nothing to show. So, I mean, like I want to say before Outco, pretty much what it was is I saw that application, sending in applications wasn't doing anything for me. It was just all about networking, right? Just trying to meet the right people, trying to talk to the right people. Again, talking about my struggle. I remember one of my biggest grinds, out there in San Francisco was just going to meetups all the time, right? There's all kinds of developer meetups, hackathons, things like that, where you're just trying to meet people. It's hard for people to take you seriously when first thing they say what's your experience like, and you have none, right? Again, it was just pretty rough, as far as just trying to network, talk to people. Again, it was half the time I would go to meetups to try to meet people, to try to talk to recruiters, and then half the time was also to just get food, right? Again, I was on a struggle in San Francisco. I don't know, I'm pretty sure David and Dan remember, right? Probably 80% of what I ate the whole time in San Francisco was free pizza at meetups and stuff like that. So, but I mean, hey, I got to meet people. I think the biggest interview that I had though, and actually led me to Outco was Facebook. So one thing I learned was trying to talk to recruiters, they just would not take me seriously. I started these networking events, started talking to engineers, starting to talk about a little bit about what I had to offer, what I want to do. I remember running into one engineer who he saw some of my static websites, right? Just some websites I put in HTML, CSS, and I had it hosted on AWS. And they really liked my UI, right? They really like the interface. They're like, hey, we need someone like you on our team. This engineer, he sent me a referral forward. He pushed really highly of me. I talked to a recruiter. I feel like I had a technical screen, but I feel like I kind of barely got my way in. And they were willing, for time's sake, because I kind of told them, I was like, hey, I'm low on time. They were willing to give me an onsite. So I was like, great, right? So I had the screening on the campus, on the Facebook. I don't know if you guys have ever been, but I think it looks like freaking Disneyland. But I remember going in, being kind of amazed, and sitting down with the recruiter, and they were talking about onsite, and they told me it's an 8-hour onsite, and I was just like, 8 hours? I was like, oh, I thought maybe it was a hackathon. I was like, oh, do you want me to kind of just build in an application, see how far I get? And then I hadn't really heard about how these final interviews go, and they're just like, oh no, data structures, algorithms, I don't know what else they were you know what I mean? I was just like, I have no idea. They're space and time complexity. I was just like, I don't know what any of this stuff is. And I remember the recruiter kind of be like, dang it, that's right. You didn't go to school. He's just he told me, he's like, hey, if you taught yourself how to code, here's a list of things. If you taught yourself how to code, maybe you could teach yourself this. He's like, I won't reject you. He's like, because if I reject you, it'll take a year for you to even try to come back. He's like, but I'll just kind of put on pause. And he's like, just let me know. Maybe we'll check in 6 or 7 months, see if it got anywhere, or feel free to reach out to me. So first thing I did was, what's pretty cool though, is I grabbed all those terms. I just started kind of Googling, looking online, meetups and things like that. And Outco kept on popping up. And that's kind of how I came across it.
Nice. And so you discovered Outco, and then what happened from there? How did you joined in, and how did things evolve from there?
Well, first I almost joined in.
Oh yeah.
This is a little infamous story, but so for me, same thing, right? So again, with the bootcamp grads, we're on a struggle to find these jobs. I'm not gonna lie, even when I did the whole Facebook interview, that honestly took a couple months still, maybe at least 2 or 3 months after I finished the bootcamp, and we weren't getting anywhere, right? Everybody was amazed I got into a Facebook, almost got into onsite, but again, I mean, it's not like I was even close to getting it. So once I kind of came across Outco, once I told my experience, it was me and a couple of friends that did their bootcamp together, which is you know what, let's just go ahead, let's jump into Outco. Just kind of did something like this, right? We just had a little a knowledge transfer info session. It seemed like it was the right way to go about it. It was me and 2 close friends. We went ahead, we all applied for Outco, and then we wanted to go into the next cohort, and they got in and I got rejected. So that was my first experience with Outco. Is I remember I tried applying, and then it was just like a technical screening, and they didn't let me in. But this is actually one of the stories I like the most about Outco was, again, they told me no, like, hey, maybe you need a little bit more experience. I remember one of the people who helped screen me, he kind of told me, he's like, you need a little bit more help on the technical side of things. But what's pretty cool is he gave me some resources. Like he told me, he's like, hey, you learn how to do this, practice this a little bit more, and maybe you can get into the next cohort. I still had like about a week. They're still accepting applications for like about a week for the next cohort. So, I mean, I just put in, I was like, let me see if I could try one more time. I kept learning it, just kind of whatever he gave me. And then what was pretty cool is I tried again in a few days and I got accepted. So moving in with that, I still remember when I first came in into Outco, like day one, I remember he saw me and he's just like, wait, what? Like, because he's one of the guys who was early on who was helping out, I think, with like the minor stuff in Outco when I was first there. He was just like, no, wait, like he had to reject me. So he's like, no, like you weren't supposed to pass or you're not supposed to be here. We're talking about the next cohort. And then I was like, oh, I re-interviewed. And he went ahead and I guess Outco had like the records. He looked it up and he saw my solution and he's just like, wait, what the heck? He's like, like that's a good solution. Like, how did you get that? I was like, dude, you gave me the resources. Like, this is how I learned, right? So it was pretty cool having that. That was kind of like my first step in.
Nice. And David, was that our first class where we had the fundamentals check?
Yeah, I think it was also the first time we had introduced like an interview process just to make sure that everyone was at like roughly the same baseline before joining into the class.
Okay, nice. Cool. So you got in. What was your experience like in class, and how did things progress from there to I don't know, how long did it take, or what happened after to get to your first offer?
Outco was really cool. I feel like being hands-on, right? Regardless if it's like online, I got to be there in person, right? But there's times, I mean, we have all kinds of resources online. I really kind of really being there, even just kind of like this right here, like this face-to-face interaction was really cool. One thing I loved is like, I don't know, my whole thing is like just kind of pushing this thing with this whole coding thing, engineering in general. Is like one thing I've kind of pushed myself on, like, look, I'm not the smartest guy, but I'll put more time to him. You know what I mean? It was pretty cool. Outco was definitely like, let's just say the class, I forgot how many hours it was. I think it was like 4 to 6 a day, but I was definitely in there early, out late. And that's what I love, right? It's just like, again, Outco wasn't there just like, hold on, here's a course later. Like they had a ton of resources for me, regardless if it's with them or not. They made this available, kept grinding. It was kind of crazy. I remember Outco being really well for my whole cohort. I'm pretty sure if you guys look back, easily over half of my class, they actually got offers within the month, right? So Outco was a month. I was definitely at least like the last 5 out of maybe like 30 students that got offers, and I got it. I had my first offer 2 weeks after the course.
Okay, 2 weeks. And did you take it? I don't remember what happened from there.
Oh, got you. Sorry. Yeah. So for me, it wasn't Amazon. It was 2 weeks after. And again, actually, this is another cool thing about Outco, and there's also why I praise Outco really highly is, again, I was living on a budget, right? Like, again, I was living off my savings still. I mean, one thing that you could definitely do is the minute you get an offer, it's so easy for you to just grab it and take it and run, right? The offer is actually with Apple. I mean, Apple obviously is a great company, it's still up there in fame, but that's where, like, when like David was there, he kind of, again, he's definitely involved with the offers, and he can help you like, analyze and take a look at them. And he pretty much kind of told me, he's like, hey man, like this is cool. So just to be a little bit more detailed in the offer, I remember being about a little under 80K. It was like a little under 80K, I believe it was in Palo Alto, and it was like a contract offer. So it wasn't even full-time with Apple. My first language I learned, like, so I did a UI, right? HTML, CSS, but my first language that I learned was Ruby. So at the time, Ruby on Rails was pretty hot. Or sorry, I learned Ruby on Rails, and Dev Bootcamp pushed on Ruby to help you learn Ruby on Rails. And I think the biggest reason why is because you write one line and you build a whole application, right? So you have framework experience, you can build a whole application because you can write this one line, right? So that's when they're kind of telling me, they're like, hey, you know what, from what I saw for what the position was going to be, they helped me actually look at it and kind of say like, hey, it seems like you're going to be kind of working on some operational stuff. It seems like they kind of want you around to kind of be maintaining an application. It wasn't really anything exciting. I think the only thing exciting about it, and I was kind of like phased by it or blind by it, was just that it paid. You know what I mean? So yeah, so that's where David kind of grabbed me. He said, hey, you know what? Something I highly recommend is just maybe, waiting a little bit. And he's just like, you could keep pushing, you could definitely get a better offer. He also did recommend, he's like, how about you try learning JavaScript right now? JavaScript is actually really hot. He's like, you already have the UI side of it. He's like, if you can, instead of trying to do Ruby, learn JavaScript, just try to pick that up and push hard on it. He's like, I think you could definitely do something a lot more. And it definitely made sense at the time. I kind of let Ruby go once we start kind of looking at like positions and kind of seeing what's available with JavaScript, what's available with Ruby. I was definitely a lot more excited with JavaScript, especially when React was barely coming up. Companies like Facebook were pressing on it. New teams, new companies were really pushing on it. So that's why I kind of made that change. So again, like I'm really looking at David and being like, you get paid, right? If I get hired, yet they're just like, hey, it might take you a little bit more time, but I really feel like you should just wait a bit.
Nice. And glad to hear you had that no pushing to take the offer experience there. And so getting to that point, like, what do you feel like the top, getting a little more specific, like, what do you feel like the top benefits were of going through the program to get you to that point where you're going from not getting accepted to getting an offer just 2 weeks after the program?
You said the top three?
Yeah.
Well, number one, time. Like, that's one thing right there. To be honest, I'll never admit, or I'll never commit to saying like I would have never been able to do it. Like, no, I would have. It just would have took a lot more time, right? And who knows? Maybe I could have got offered, but I guarantee you that I probably would have jumped into like that Ruby on Rails position, right? But just going out of that whole time, again, I was running on a budget. I was kind of like in panic mode, just living. I only had so much money to really kind of stay out there in San Francisco. So, I mean, again, the proof right there is literally 2 weeks right after Outco, I got an offer, right? So I had been trying for months. I wasn't even getting anywhere. It was hard alone to get interviews. So that's a big one right there. I'm so pro Outco where I even tell my friends who are learning how to code, there's people to this day that did dev bootcamp with. They reach out to me because I'm at Amazon. They took like startup offers out of people who didn't do Outco. They come back to me now and they're just like, hey man, like, can you help me out? But I'm gonna be honest with you, they're not ready yet. So I literally put them through Outco. Like I'm such a pro believer where I even tell friends, regardless if they're working tech or not, if they can get into Outco, like you're done. Like that's it. Like quit your job, stop what you're doing, focus 100% Outco. You're gonna get hired. Like that's just what it is. So that's one. That's time, confidence. Especially, me being in a cohort where more than half the people, like as I'm trying to finish the cohort, people are just getting offers left and right. I mean, how can you doubt it? You know what I mean? So it kind of builds a confidence like, hey, if I just really stick to what I'm doing, I'll definitely be able to close that offer, right? The ultimate thing there is to be able to get that offer and the offer you really want. And then again, kind of how I bring up like outside of the confidence, when you see all these people, like you get to keep in touch with all these people, the network, right? So like dev bootcamp, right? When I did the bootcamp grad, it's cool having that network, but I'm not gonna lie, like it's kind of like I talked to a lot of people. There's a lot of people that kind of fell off from tech. They're not really in tech anymore. They kind of went back to other things. They're just not in San Francisco anymore, especially. One thing that's pretty cool about Outco, a lot of the grads there, I sync up with them. I keep in touch with them. It's cool having people, again, who are doing well, who are getting these tech jobs, and like at the very end, I mean, I'd love to actually, you know what? I remember dang it, I think his name was Jared. I forgot his last name, Jared. He was one of the guys that he did Outco as well. And he had like a startup idea. After he did Outco, I remember him getting a job, and he sold his idea, or he sold his company, stuff like that. He jumped into a startup, it got bought out, and he made like over $1 million. And he came out here to Seattle to come visit me. We weren't the closest of friends, but we definitely knew each other. I think we were only a couple cohorts away. But again, like that's an example, like having that network of people who are doing really well for themselves, they're kind of growing. For anybody on this call, right? Like if you join Outco, right, and once you get that job, like, imagine you kind of starting out during these companies, being in something hot. So like having that network there, like don't forget about me. So like, you got to talk to people, you got to sync up with them, and you really do have that network for life.
Okay. And it sounds like it had an impact on your mindset. Like, can you talk a little bit about like how your mindset evolved over the course of going from like rejections to where you were at?
as far as mindset goes, yeah, like it kind of goes into a little bit what I talk about, the whole confidence. Mm, let's see. It puts you in something where, again, just being really confident that even though you're not there right now, like let's say when you first start the program, right? You're not there right now, but you're headed there. Like one thing I'm so pro about Outco is they give you all the tools. Like, and this is for everybody too. Everybody listening to this call, I hope you guys do Outco. If you guys hop in, like just know this, I'm not here to speak and then you'll never hear from me again. One thing I push on is I've helped out so many people get into Amazon. Like that's my thing. Um, I'll share a little bit about that afterwards. I'll kind of answer the question first, but again, just having that right there where I'm so pro Outco that like I trust that people can get into Amazon. I trust that, you know, you guys have what I have. Why? Because Outco has all the tools laid out for you. And then I guarantee you that like being somebody who was in Outco, as being somebody who thought about doing Outco, you doubt yourself. It's really easy to doubt yourself. Like, can I do this? Should I do this? Can I even get a job? Right. And it's like, again, Outco lays out, like they literally have all the tools for it. They give you everything you need to do that job. It just really, it takes you to really kind of grab it and do something with it. You know what I mean? So it just made me so confident. I think one of the biggest things, and here's my favorite part, is like getting into a company like Amazon. Like I came in, I didn't know everything. And here's something that I tell people too, is that like a lot of people either do back down. Like they see that an entry level job, they're just like, you need at least 6 years of experience. Like, you know what I mean? That doesn't make sense, right? But this is where Outco also kind of comes in and helps you screen all that stuff. They're just like, look, it's fine. You can still do this. You can still do that. You can still get past that. Having that confidence where you can kind of come in and kind of be like, you know what, I'm not there right now, but I can be, right? So that's a lot of things I was interviewing. Again, Outco kind of teaches you that as far as what you're sharing is who you can be, right? Like on the job, I'm here to learn, you know what I mean? And there's no way you would even say that, because I feel like before, when I was trying to do these interviews, when I was trying to do these applications, like I was like Facebook, for example, I was just like, even though the engineer was really excited for me, I was kind of like, I know how to do this, I know how to do that. Like that's about it. And I was literally like, that's about it. Like, I don't know, I don't want to get fired. You know, like it's really easy to doubt yourself. It's really easy. You know, I feel like engineers, imposter syndrome is, I feel like the more you learn, the worse it gets, right? The more you learn, the more you realize that there's a lot more to learn. So again, just having that mindset that, you know, you can definitely get through that and more. Like, and again, it kind of goes back to, sorry, I'm kind of ranting on a little bit, but last thing I'll just kind of say is like, you know what, if tech falls tomorrow, if I decide to do something else, I guarantee you that I know I can succeed at whatever I get put in. Why? Because it's that mindset to make sure, you know, as long as you have the right people in front of you, have your right tools, you have the right direction, you can go ahead and pretty much do it.
Okay. And then just a couple more questions. I know people probably got their own questions that they want to ask. I'm curious, like, could you talk a little bit about like how you went from that rejection at Apple to then ultimately landing at Amazon? Like, what was that path like for you, and like what was the work you did?
So just from Apple to Amazon, you know what? Yeah. So I took a little break though, because I went ahead and learned JavaScript and did that whole grind stuff like that, right? So Ruby was my go-to language. I went ahead JavaScript, and again, that's actually a kind of a big reason why. How do I say? I didn't apply for Amazon. So at the time, my top 3 companies was Facebook. Like Mark Zuckerberg was one of my biggest reasons why I wanted to get into tech, right? That was number 1. Number 2 was Google, and Amazon was my number 3. But those weren't the first companies I applied for. I made my list, started from like the very bottom, kind of worked my way up. And it's funny because the bottom companies were the first ones to reject me. I was kind of getting going. I was definitely, by the time I did Outco, I was definitely getting interviews. It was just me kind of messing up. So it's cool. Again, how I told you, like Outco gives you the tools, but at the same time, it's like you don't always apply them, right? Like, so I was kind of working my way up. Let's see, I went from, I don't know, I think it was like, I can't even think of which companies I had. I'm trying to think of maybe like Redfin. I'm trying to think of which companies rejected my first technical. I don't know. I can't remember, but I definitely remember like all my on-sites and stuff like that. But just know that, like, let's say I made a list of like 20 companies, number 2019, I was failing all the technical screens. But some of the pros in Outco is just, you have, again, going back to that network, you have people like Dan, you have people like David who are helping you, watching you. Like, especially if you're doing technical screen, guess what? Afterwards, you got to show them what problem you had. You got to go over that solution. It could be with your cohort. You're like, hey, you got to share, like, I got this technical. What do you guys think as far as the solution, stuff like that goes? I started getting farther and farther with companies like, I started getting to on-sites with like, who was it? Like Airbnb, Snapchat, like Uber, you know what I mean? But here's another thing too, is like I was getting to those final interviews, the final technical interviews, but I kept on getting rejected as well. So like once I made it to like my top 10 companies, I was getting at least the final technical one before the onsite or the actual onsite interview. And I remember with Snapchat, that one's funny. I think, I'm not sure if it was Ron or David next to me, because I was, at the time I was failing the final technical, right? There's like maybe 2 or 3 that had failed back to back. And then I remember being there, and then one of the Outco members, he was pretty much watching me, right? He's like, all right, go ahead and do it. So it was like an hour technical screen. I'm on there. And then it was like, I go ahead and I do the interview. I felt I had an optimal solution. I felt great. And I closed my laptop. And then I remember him being like, oh, like, how do you think you did? And then I'm just like, well, hey, did you see my solution? Like, it went great. And he's like, that's literally one of the worst freaking interviews I've seen. And I'm just like, what? I was like, my solution was great. I was like, what do you mean? And then him telling me, he's like, you literally yelled at the guy. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, you said this. And I was just like, and I did. I kind of got like a little bit loud with him. And I was like, yeah, because he was wrong. Like when I was doing the technical challenge, I erased something, and the interviewer didn't tell me, sorry, he didn't see it. So he was kind of telling me I was wrong. And I was like, okay, but if you look, and then once I pointed out that he was wrong, he shut up. He's like, all right, whatever. He was like an older guy. And then, you know, from there, yeah, they passed on me. You know what I mean? Like they ended up telling me, no, he's like, you got to remember, like they got to work with you, right? Regardless if you know, you're the smartest guy in the world, if you can't work with them, it really doesn't matter. And that's something that Outco teaches you. But, and I knew this, and I had already finished the cohort, but yet sometimes you don't even do it yourself. You don't even realize it. You know what I mean? So it's having them point out these flaws, point out these things that you're not even applying is also like something that's pretty cool.
Okay. Okay, nice. Well, I guess the last question I have for you is like, since you've been to Amazon, you've been like a referral machine there at Amazon, especially for outcoders. Curious to hear like what's your experience like, you know, getting people in at Amazon. I'll leave it kind of open-ended to start.
Got you. Just quick question: Are we gonna leave time for like a little Q&A after, or no?
Oh, are we scheduled for half an hour or an hour? I thought it was an hour.
Pretty sure it's 60 minutes.
Yeah, 60 minutes.
Yeah. No, but are we gonna leave time for Q&A? Just I don't go on too long.
Yeah.
Okay. Got you. Okay, so yeah, as far as the whole like referral and things like that, let's see. Again, so as far as being someone from starting from like my top 20 companies and working my way up, right? So I got to like my top 10 and stuff like that. I mean, you learn a lot by failure, right? Like, I mean, I was the only one kind of getting rejected and so on. So kind of moving up. Again, you just kind of learn things that you got to work on. Sometimes you catch yourself on being like, oh, I should have done this, should have done that, and especially watching other people fail too definitely helps. So I feel like working my way there, I learned some things through these struggles. I'll kind of share a little bit about it. I remember having, I had on-sites with like Airbnb, like back to back. I had on-sites with like Airbnb. I think it was like Zillow. Snapchat gave me another shot, and yeah, I forgot who else. Again, it was like 3 to 4, and I kept on getting rejected. And then finally I went with Yelp. I went super out of my way to get an on-site there. So I probably shouldn't share too much of this, but pretty much I went super out of my way with Yelp, where they were offering me, they had like an entry-level position. I really pushed for, for my own sanity purposes, because I kept on failing these on-sites, and Outco was giving me like practice on-site interviews, and they're just like, everything is good, like you're probably just doing something that you're not realizing, right? So I kind of went in there, and I tried going for a lower position. I tried getting an intern position. I was pushing for an intern position, and the recruiter's like, that doesn't make sense, like you didn't go to college. But I just wanted something easier than an entry level. So I was fighting for something lower. I just told the guy, I was like, I want to be able to start from the very bottom, because I could see myself going all the way up. And he's just like, all right, tell you what, he's like, we have contracts available. Like if you want to start as a contract engineer, and he's like, if everything goes good, then you could go full time. And he's like, but just know it doesn't pay as much. The guy was just really confused, but for my own sanity purpose, I just wanted to get an offer. I did that. When he started the interview process, it was literally just like a 4-hour on-site. It's probably one of the easiest interviews I ever had. And one of my favorite, I still remember doing one of the interviews with one of the lead engineers. It was like an hour interview, and he was just like, hey, here's the problem. And I remember just kind of being like, input, output, all right, here's what you need. And I just slammed it out. And the guy was just like, I don't know what to do, man. He's like, I've never had so much time left over. He's like, I'm supposed to ask you questions. He's like, but do you want to go get some pizza or something? Like, and so I slammed through that interview. Obviously, I was like, all right, this is great. I got really cool with the recruiter. I like went super my way where I was just kind of like kissing his ass pretty much, telling him like, we were texting at the point, and he was really excited. He's like, hey, everything looks pretty good. And then next day, he kind of sent me an awkward email where he's just like, it was a rejection email. I couldn't believe it. I was just like, dude, like I'm doing everything I can. I shot him an email. I was just like, hey, obviously they have their NDA, so they can't be breaking, but pretty much at the end, he kind of gave me like a little side where he's just like, hey man, one thing that you're doing really terrible is just your communication skills. So this is me personally, right? Like he just kind of told me these guys are trying to help you, and I'm just like, yeah, like, but I don't need their help, right? I was like, why are they trying to help me if I don't need their help? And he just kind of told me, he's like, no, like they want to see if they can definitely work with you. You're not giving them, and all I would do is they would give me a problem, I'll give them my back and just slam out the problem. And like I was in a hurry, like to just whiteboard everything out. And I go and you know what? I've seen this, a lot of people struggle with this, you know, even if they don't do Outco, even students who do Outco and stuff like that. And even though this is one of the things that like Outco tells you, you know, how to work effectively, how to think out loud, but people still do it, especially when you're in that pressure. Interviewing is just a whole nother game. Once he kind of told me that, I started slowing down, and I was just like, all right, thank you. Like, I'll go ahead and apply that. I definitely shared that with Outco. Then they kind of like, all right, here's how we can do it. I started pacing myself. I wasn't so much in a hurry to finish the problem anymore. And then ever since then, I never got a no, and that was it. So at the very end, it was just Google. It was Google and Amazon. Google was in LA. Amazon's out here in Seattle. I definitely took. I like the idea of Seattle, just kind of being the headquarters. They definitely gave me a better offer. I could talk about the details of that a little bit later. The main thing I will say is this is also where David definitely kicks in. Me and him work really closely, where I was able, I mean, at the end, I'm not gonna lie, at the end of the day, Outco paper itself, David was able to help me negotiate a little over like 20% more than what they actually had originally gave me. So that was pretty cool. So, oh, but you asked me about sorry, I kind of skipped over the whole referrals, right? So
yeah,
my whole point of that kind of story is knowing through so many failures and like literally going from this to just switching it on. I know what these companies are coming for, like Google, Amazon, they definitely have the higher standards. And, you know, I mean, I 100%, I feel like, you know, Outco gives you the tools. Technically, they prepare you, right? But again, it's how you use them. And I feel like a lot of it's kind of mental as far as people who kind of still doubt themselves, right? They still question it if they can. And a lot of it just leads to failure where they have little mix-ups and stuff like that. So I remember I've worked with David where he just kind of passed me like, hey, can you help these people out? They really want to work at Amazon, right? They're definitely prepared technically because Outco helps you do that. And this was pre-COVID. During COVID, we kind of took a break from that just because Amazon was kind of like on freeze. Things were kind of crazy and stuff like that. But I'll say at least, it happened some in 2020, but I'll speak for 2019 alone. 2019, what was it? We started kind of kicking this off, and then David will kind of be like, he would just sync me up, right? As an Outco grad, he would sync me up with current alumni, people that are in the other cohort. I'll speak to them, and I'll easily say that I don't have the exact percentage, but it was we would have at least 3 people get an onsite into Amazon just from my referrals, and at least 1 person out of those 3 would go. I think there was even 1 month where we had up to 3 people. That's probably my highest in 1 month, where we had three people get accepted into Amazon the same exact month. So that was pretty cool. David didn't always send me the people. Again, sometimes alumni just reach out to me individually. Some of the people that got into Amazon, or some of the people that, you know, one of the failures, right? So there's 1 out of 3. If the 2 that didn't get the offer, he's like, hey, I have another Outco alumni or have like a friend. Can you refer them? And I'm more than happy to. And the reason why I'm more than happy to is because coming as an Outco grad, Outco alumni, I know you guys are more prepared. And then plus I get a referral bonus. I don't mind that either. But besides that, like, again, that's also what's pretty cool is just having that network. So like going ahead, getting people into like Amazon, stuff like that, being really pro Outco, like you guys are hearing from me from the very beginning, you'll hear from me after as well. So like, I'm more than happy to go ahead. If you guys feel, you know, you guys are definitely, if Amazon's a preference where you guys definitely want to work, I say, you know, definitely will reach out. Definitely will have a system where you guys can get connected to me once again. And actually something I want to share too is out of the people, so we talked about 1 out of 3, the most common thing, to be honest, is out of those 2 people, out of the 3 that didn't get the offer, I can't think of one person who didn't get the offer right after. Because again, Amazon and Google just grill you. But once you're ready for that, if you at least made it to onsite, you were this close. Any other interview, it's so easy. You can face anything, and that's what's pretty great. I think the most common company that people were getting into right after the Amazon rejection was Google.
I did not know that. Very neat, Arturo.
Yeah, actually, adding to that one thing. So again, as far as the referral goes, something I do want to share is, trust me, like when it comes to the referrals, Amazon takes referrals really, really seriously. There was one where, again, one of my examples where it was a boot camp. He was a boot camp grad with me. He took a job before me, and then he came back to me because he wanted to get a better job. I helped him. I told him, I was like, hey, do Outco. He did Outco, and then what happened? He came back to me. He's like, hey, I'm down to do like Amazon, and from Outco, he already had offers pending, right? So that means he already had offers on the table, and he's like, hey, I want to do Amazon. So I reached out to the recruiter myself, and I was like, hey, he already has offers pending. You know, how soon can we get him an onsite? And that was probably my fastest one, where I reached out like on a Wednesday, and they flew him out by Friday. So he literally had an onsite in 2 days. So that's pretty powerful. Again, they like once they can, you know, especially number one, the referral, they just take it really seriously, and then number 2 is with companies that you're prepared for. Like if you're, I think with him, it was Square, and I forgot who else, but he definitely had 2 offers pending. I think one was, I know he for sure had an offer with Square, and I think maybe he had another onsite pending. And and being able to share that, the recruiter's like, I'm not gonna waste my time screening. I trust you. Let's go.
Nice. Yeah, that validation from other places, and that's part of the value of interviewing at lots of places, and like you said, making that list, prioritizing it. Cool. All right. Well, thanks, Arturo. We want to open it up to Q&A here. If anybody has any questions, the chat is available. The Q&A section is available. You can raise your hand. I think I can unmute you here. I haven't really done this before. Yeah, I can allow you to talk. If you want to just hit the little raise hand, it should be, if you click, I think, participants down at the bottom, or it might be just be raise hand down at the bottom. Happy to get you in here, and you can ask any questions that you might have. Don't everybody ask all at once, though. I don't know if Arturo will be able to get to answer them all at once. David Liu, I saw that you had your hand up earlier. Did you want to ask a question? Not sure if you did. I saw the hand was up for like, well, that was to confirm attendance. Okay, present, gotcha. Is Arturo just that thorough? Was our little thing that thorough that nobody has a single question? What's the interview like? Feel like a teacher who's like got the guest in class, and like getting people to answer questions or ask questions. Are you still doing UI stuff?
Yeah, I mean, here's actually what's pretty cool. And again, this is also part of the Outco kind of that confidence doing like what I want to do. So here's actually something that I think is pretty cool sharing is I didn't know any JavaScript frameworks. I dropped everything in Ruby, right? All the frameworks I had done was in Ruby. And then at the time, I only knew HTML, CSS, and the only JavaScript was like jQuery, right? So technically, I didn't really know anything. And then kind of moving from there, what's pretty cool is once I pretty much switched everything to just kind of doing I pretty much did the fundamentals that Outco kind of taught us, but with JavaScript. And once I went into Amazon, what I really went in there for, I was just like, hey, I'm looking to be like a UI like lead. I was really pushing for me to be like, I want to emphasize on the UI. And here's what's pretty great about Amazon is there's so many positions available. So actually something I want to make clear is that once you get an offer for a single position, you can get it anywhere. So meaning, hey, if I want to be, there's entry, there's mid, there's senior. They all have their like focuses, but you can be like, hey, if I get into entry-level developer, that title, that role, I can take it anywhere. So like for me specifically, once I got an offer, I actually had 5 different teams reaching out to me. So like the recruiter's like, hey, I have 5 different teams. I spoke to every single manager. They kind of told me what they're working on, and I went with one. And the one that I was most entitled to was, give me a second. the one that I was most excited about is like we're like a startup within Amazon.
Whoa.
So again, last thing I'll kind of, so I'll leave some time for more questions, but the thing that's pretty cool is, again, so am I still doing UI stuff? I am by choice. So that's what's pretty cool is uh, they put me in a position where I was able to be a UI lead. And then once they put me there, I was kind of like, hey, you know what? I might have exaggerated a little bit, like on my resume. Like I know I have some stuff like this, but one thing is, it is like you get paid to learn. You know what I mean? Like I had like my senior manager. He's like, yeah, man. He's like, you're not fooling anybody. Like you kind of come in here. He's like, but guess what? He's like, you definitely have time to ramp up. You definitely have time to learn. We'll give you what you have to learn. And it's true. Like they just kind of give you stuff. They give you support. Amazon is a large company. You have a large amount of engineers around you. And again, you can kind of go ahead and do that. And then in being that, I also have some other positions that were like, hey, we could use somebody that can do UI half the time and do more full stack, like more back end the other half of the time. So there's options there, like, hey, can you do the little UI we have, but focus more on the back end and learn that stuff afterwards. So again, that's one thing that's pretty cool with Amazon. Like you literally get to go in there and get to choose what you really want to do. And then also going with that, me as of right now, or I'll say me starting off, like I think the fastest I've seen somebody switch teams joining Amazon is like a little under 3 months. So meaning somebody joined like and got a position at Amazon, they didn't like the team, or they found a better team. A lot of people always want to go to like AWS or like Alexa. And then once a position opened up over there, they just switched. They didn't have to re-interview. All they did was sync up with the manager. They're like, hey, you know what, can I go? And they just switched. So that's something that's pretty dope about Amazon. I feel like it helps a lot of engineers grow, switch to different teams, and save a lot of time versus, an engineer being unhappy and leaving.
Oh, that was really cool. I'm glad David asked that because that was a pretty neat insight into what it's like to work there. Mason asked, does Amazon hire remote workers or generally only soon to be on-site workers?
One thing, like Amazon, they do what they want. Like there's one thing is that they definitely bend the rules. I feel, well, at least for me, being in San Francisco and working with a lot of different engineers, like talking to these engineers in person, things like that. The number one advice I got from all of them though is like, if you have the choice, don't be remote. As for entry level, just if you have the choice, like don't be remote. And I remember there's also where me and David were kind of going at Google and Amazon was kind of going back and forth, asking for more. And I kept on kind of stalling and being like, hey, well, Google told me this. Hey, well, Amazon told me this, and that. And then I remember the recruiter at the very end. I mean, Amazon at the time, they wanted me on site, right? And then Amazon was already giving me more, but Google was leveraging me because my family's down in Southern California. So working in LA, I got to be closer to my family. And Amazon doesn't, they have cities now, but at the time they didn't have any offices in LA. And they have some Southern California, like Orange County, but I didn't want to work in Orange County. And then so I was just like, hey, well, there's Google. And then Amazon was just like, what do we have to do to kind of get you started? And 120 at Amazon, I think it broke 125 now in San Francisco, but at the time, 120, no matter if it's SF or Seattle, was a cap. Like we're not base pay. You have total comp, but let's just say base pay, they're not going to pay you over 120. I kept on bending over. I was like, hey, you know what? Well, Google's in LA. And then that's where the recruiter went like, all right, you know what? Like, that's it. I'm done. He's just like, look, man, there's no secret. Amazon has money. He's like, I'll give you 123. He's like, we can close at 123. He's like, if location is that big of a deal, work remote. Choose where the hell you want to work. You can just, we'll expense everything. We can send you things, or you can go ahead. You can pick up the things at Orange County if you want to work in SoCal, or we can just send you things over. This is not. So like they literally, for that same team, they're just like, if that's the only way we're gonna get you, okay, go ahead, go work where the hell you want. Like, so that's something that I wouldn't say they typically do, but at the same time, it's like if they really want somebody, they really want somebody. And again, that also goes with the whole Outco mentality. That's what they kind of teach you. It's like you're not there hoping. You don't go in these interviews hoping to be what they want. It's like they want you. You know what I mean? You're doing an interview. You're going in there to see if the company's a fit for you. You know what I mean? And once you kind of show them that you really are somebody they want, they'll do whatever it takes to get you.
Nice. I'm gonna move right into the next question. I want to make sure we get to these. Shushmita has got a question. I'm gonna go down to Ray. Shushmita, if you could just elaborate and let me know if that's a question for Arturo. It sounds like it might be a question for David and I. I'll save that one until the end. Ray, what is the expected interview process if you applied for a front-end React position at Amazon? are you still expected to have the typical full day, 4 to 5 interviews with at least 3 of them algo related, or do they ask you to build something and answer JavaScript and CSS fundamentals?
That might be a better question for Outco, like for like Dan and David. And here's something that I'll tell you, with the better, and here's something too, like the better you get at like just interviewing in general, right? Once you start getting these resources, the more confident recruiters are with you. Like for me, I think I only had one technical interview with Amazon, and then I got straight to the onsite. That was about it. There were some companies that didn't even give me a technical screen. We just went straight to the onsite, right? So that's another thing. It's like, and that comes with just practice. And I'm talking about just even phone interviews. If you can kind of just get to a recruiter, get them, get to know what they really want to hear, what they really want to know. Tell them about what, especially when you tell them like what companies you're actively interviewing with. Sometimes they just get straight to it. So there's times where I was comparing myself with other people, and yeah, some people did have some screens beforehand, then they had technical screens, but you can easily get past that with just more practice in interviewing.
Okay, and I think the question was like, can you speak at all about the specifics of the Amazon interview? Are you allowed to?
I'm actually an Amazon interviewer. Like I can actually, I haven't spent too much time on it. I think the only thing I can't do that like officially is speak like, oh, be in it. So like if one of you, if I refer you guys, I can't be in there and have like a biased opinion. One thing that's pretty cool is honestly, Amazon, they're not hiding it. Like, and again, Outco shows you that too. Like they're telling you what the heck they're looking for. And again, I would say, honestly, I would say maybe 40%, 35% is actually technically related. And again, Outco gives you the tools for that. Like Outco could tell you if you've learned enough, if you got it down where you can technically get into like companies like Amazon, okay, great. But then, the other 60+%, like it literally is mentality. Like they literally have it, right? We have leadership principles. You can go ahead and push it. And again, that's also something that Outco helps with. And that's that whole mindset, like going in there, knowing what the heck you want, knowing how you can show those principles. And that's really about it. Like, again, I was actually more surprised that I had a lot more like behavioral questions versus actual technical. Like they definitely had the technical, and they definitely want to be able to show you that you can actually get across this. One thing that separated me from like one thing I noticed was Google and Amazon, they would give me a problem and they would change it up on me. So I'm just kind of like, okay, cool. I have 1, 2, 3 solutions. Let's go with this one. This is better for X reasons. I get into it, and then I'm kind of just talking about it, writing it out loud, and they're like, okay, but what if we had this? What if we had that? And then they'll kind of just see how I think, and then they're done. Right. So like, and then now they leave time. They would actually get more excited to be like leaving time for questions. And again, this is also something that Outco kind of helps you out with. It's like, sometimes it's easy for somebody to ask you one question and just rant, and it's just like, no, just keep it short, simple, get to the point, so they can give you they can ask more questions to learn more about you, and so on and so on.
Okay. And then something Ray specifically is asking is, what would the expected interview process be if you applied for a front-end React position?
I can't speak to that right now. Again, I think that's something that like the Outco would probably be be able to kind of answer, just because again, sorry guys, for me personally, I interviewed about 4 years ago, and for the most part, I can actually give you guys, or actually, I mean, I've referred people, right? So I could tell you a little bit more about the onsite, and they'll probably say the same thing, where at least more than half of it is a lot of it's behavioral. And as far as technical screens, pretty much how I've helped people that have a specific set of questions, I'm always more than happy to send those out. Outco has them too, though. They can, if you easily ask them like, hey, what technical questions does Amazon or like Google ask? Actually, Amazon, Google are actually really similar. The way I kind of put it is, if you go on LeetCode, and you go like medium, I wouldn't say they give any hard questions, because sometimes if it's too hard, you'll just be stumped and you can't even go anywhere. But they want to be able to see you kind of work through a problem.
Okay.
And then just like to get a little more specific there, for the like on-site process, or just like the general process, a lot of times they've introduced this like online assessment, even for like front-end roles. That's generally going to be some like data structure and algorithm related questions. The on-site still may have some like data structure algorithm, but they might also weave in questions around like rebuilding like higher order functions in JavaScript, or asking you like more CSS specific questions as a component of the technical pieces. But like, even still, there will be some piece to like data structure and algorithm, and honestly, like even building out or rebuilding out some of the more complex higher order functions in JavaScript still utilize like many elements of just general algorithmic problem solving skills. Well, that answers the question.
Okay. Did that answer your oh, go ahead.
Just to get to one more, like this is also where, again, actually something I want to call out is when I did do these referrals, or when I have done these referrals, I personally, I don't even help out with the technical, because again, I'm so pro Outco, I'm just like, trust me, I know you're technically ready. So that's also something that what they've kind of told me is, they're like, oh yeah, they give me like 2 technical problems, like maybe 3 max, and we don't even get to, because I don't even care about the technical problem. Like, all right, you aced it, what's next? You know what I mean? So it's also something kind of to get like a flow, a behavioral kind of vibe.
Okay. Ray, did you feel like that answered your question there? And then let us know if there's anything more specific you wanted there. Hanji asked, if I did not pass Amazon's interview, should I apply to another position in Amazon?
Yeah, so one thing that's pretty cool with Amazon, there's actually, oh, you know what? I can think of 2 people where I helped them out. They were willing to, so Amazon has different matrices. So they have numbers, right? Like 1 kind of being like a warehouse worker, right? 2 being like a manager, and so on, right? So as an entry level engineer, there's numbers, and Amazon is 4. So just hold on to that. Like as far as it's like 4, 5, and 6, right? Entry, mid, and senior. And the 2 most common ones is usually the 2 most common and the 2 highest paid are SDE, software development engineer, and then there's FEE, which is front end software engineer. And one thing you can do is, if you want to go entry level and you fail software development engineer, you can still interview for front end engineer, or vice versa. So just know that too. And where I've helped out other Outco students, I push them. I'm just like, go for mid-level, just go for mid-level, go for mid-level. If you get rejected at mid-level, what's happened actually pretty often, these were also with the referrals that I was doing, they would get rejected as a mid-level, but sometimes they would get automatic offers, like meaning, hey, we rejected you on the onsite for a mid-level engineer. Sorry, we don't feel like you're there. They tell you where your holds are at, but they tell you, hey, but you're definitely qualified for entry level. You want to take it? So that's one. And then also sometimes they just tell you no, but you can still re-interview for entry level. And then where I've actually been able to help a lot, like it's been like less than three or less, where they actually, again, they were super, I'm an entry level, and I went ahead and pushed them for the mid-level, and they got accepted. Like that's saving you like at least 2 years, 2 years worth of time, and like you definitely higher compensation.
That's some great advice there. Thank you, Arturo. And Hanji, yeah, sounds like you got an enthusiastic thanks there. You got a couple, do you have like a couple more minutes for like 2 more questions, Arturo?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. What team are you in at Amazon, and do you use algorithms in your daily work, which is right?
Yeah. So 2 things. Let's see. One thing I'm excited about, is anybody around here? I'm actually at work right now. So what about it? Amazon still has their offices open. I love it. Let's see. So again, I had an interview with these teams right within Amazon, and one thing I love is you just got to be really excited about what you're doing. I remember with Google only had 1 team because it was in LA, so they had less opportunity. Google, it was like I think it was like a traffic control. It wasn't too exciting. Again, it's kind of like managing operational stuff like that. And then Amazon had this and that. And I still remember sitting down with so I got to sit down with my senior manager, and he's just like, I didn't know he was gonna be my senior manager at the time. He kind of sat down with me. He's just like, I was there. I felt like super cocky. I felt super confident because I was like, I'm already in Amazon. Like, what's up? I was like, so why should I join your team? And this guy, he was like an older guy with like a Batman shirt on, and he's telling me, he's just like, hey, he's like, I like that, and he's just like, do you want to be part of the team that's going to take Oracle out of business? And I'm just like, heck yeah, like let's go. And then so pretty much just letting you guys know, I won't go too into detail because I can't share too much, but just know this. I pretty much am joining a team that's like a startup within Amazon. And one thing I love that Amazon does is they're their own customers, right? Like it's like, if I want to start my own startup, I got to go find people to fund me. I got to go find customers. I got to go find this and that. Like my own customers are Amazon actual businesses. So instead, you know what I mean? So I'm building a platform, and instead of me trying to go find 1 or 2 people, they're just like, oh, hey, here's your first customer. It's a business. Go scale for 500 people. And their job is to give you support, give you feedback, tell it, what they need, and so on, right? So just know this. I'm kind of like I'm working on a startup within Amazon where Amazon relies really heavily on an Oracle service, and at this point, we're Oracle's biggest customer in this in this service, and Oracle cannot scale for Amazon. They just cannot scale, and they're not. It seems at this point they're not even trying to, because Amazon's so high compared to everybody else. They're just kind of like, hey, we're just going to overcharge you and actually just keep these people happy. That's pretty much it. And they're pretty confident they are the best service out there for this specific thing. And Amazon just kind of got over it. We're just like, hey, you know what? Let's just do this thing ourselves. We actually, what I'm pretty excited about, we actually just got new funding, like a final round funding, where we're moving forward. What the plan is right now is 2023. We're officially have enough, like we're hiring more engineers, we're hiring everything. Amazon's fully invested now. Now we're going to actually onboard every single service of Amazon. AWS is definitely going to be the biggest challenge, but we're bringing on board. We're pulling everybody off Oracle. And then guess what? If we can scale for Amazon, we can scale for anybody. And we're actually going to become our own AWS service.
Wow, that sounds really, really freaking cool.
Yeah. So actually going into like the whole algorithmic answer. So like when I first came in here, I was really focused on that. I feel like, here's my thing, tech is moving so damn fast. I feel like the whole algorithmics questions are to help you, the computer science fundamental, what you learn in school, so it's a great way to screen it. I would definitely say that I still use a lot of things that like Outco taught me, like as far as space and time complexity, knowing what's efficient, why and why not, things like that. You're still writing, you're definitely writing algorithms 100%. But here's the thing is, I've been at Amazon for, I just broke 4 years in the last 30 days. And I'm headed towards a senior engineer position. So I feel like the way I kind of do it is I'm kind of planning, I'm doing product planning, I'm doing, system design. So I'm kind of like, again, so we're like a startup, we're moving pretty fast, we're building new services. So I'm kind of helping out with the whole design, the whole entry level kind of things, checking how it is. And then I kind of wrap it up in what we need to do. And then I pass it more to like the entry level developers. And they definitely work more on like the actual, maybe more algorithmic part, things like that. But I still got to review the code. I still got to look at it. So definitely, knowing differences between like what's effective, what isn't, plays a huge role.
There it is, Samarjeet. It can be used outside of interviews. One last question. Can you apply for an entry-level role at Amazon without prior internship experience?
Yeah, I mean, I'm the perfect example, right? Like, yeah, so I'll tell you this much. Again, 100%. I can't think of a single student that I was able to refer into Amazon and didn't get an onsite. So that's how confident I am. You know what I mean? Like obviously not every single person got accepted, but every single person got into an onsite. Because again, like you are technically prepared, right? So what that means is you can easily pass the technical, when you finish Outco as a program, you can get past the technical screens, but it takes a little bit more effort, takes a little bit more you coming out of here once you're actually in person talking to them, this and that, right? The onsite is just a whole nother game. But as far as if they give you like just like a coding challenge, trust me, you can get past it. Again, following the Outco curriculum. But once you pass the onsite, again, like that's about it. Like they don't, and here's what I love is there's so many people that reject you for it. The minute I was able to put Amazon as freaking on my LinkedIn, all of a sudden 100 recruiters are freaking blowing me up every day. And I'm just like, where were you guys? Like, these last few months, right? But yeah, 100%. Amazon, at the end of the day, Amazon, they know who they want, right? They don't go by one code. They lose out if they stay so strict on like one thing, right? So they're looking for people. They're looking, like, again, they've even said it themselves. I've been in meetings with Jeff Bezos. Those are pretty cool. He's just kind of like, you can have like the 4 smartest people in the world, but if they can't work together, there's no point.
Wow, very cool. Very, very cool. Okay, well, there are the questions that there are all the questions answered for Art. We've still got Shushmita. David and I will get with your question in just a sec. Ray, I think we might have a comment for you there as well in just a second here, but want to offer to wrap it up here with Arturo. I've got, if everyone could stick around for just 30 seconds after Arturo leaves, I got two quick questions for everybody, if you don't mind. But Arturo, would really like to thank you for your time. This has been super eye-opening. It's always great to see you. I don't know if you have anything in closing.
Yeah, this was actually really cool. Thanks for inviting me. I remember being there at Outco and hearing about, having people speak and that share their success. I mean, sometimes it wasn't like a meeting like this, but it would just be, somebody that was in the first cohorts who got an offer and they kind of come in and help out. Like that's also been my thing too. It's like getting into Amazon, actually getting a job and getting something that you're actually excited about. Like me, I'm in here even on the weekends in my office, and it's not by it's not because I'm forced to, it's by choice. Like I'm actually excited about what I'm doing. I'm actually excited about what I'm headed. And for me, it's definitely changed the lifestyle. And that's also something that why I'm so pro Outco, because they helped me get to that. And again, I'm more than happy to sync up with you guys. You guys heard about me. I say definitely please, once you finish a program, if you go into Outco, reach out to me. We'll get synced up, definitely. And I love to help people out, just get prepared for the Amazon interview. And I guarantee you that, like, if you can get ready for Amazon interview, you can kill any other interview.
Nice. Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Arturo. Really appreciate it again. And we'll see you hopefully again soon.
Yeah, thanks, Art.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, sorry. Last note I was going to say is sometimes a lot of Outco students they reach out to me via LinkedIn. Once you put Amazon on your resume, like if I go look at my LinkedIn, I have 1,000 messages. So if I don't get back to you versus LinkedIn, I'm just not checking anymore.
Okay.
All right. Bye, guys.
Thanks so much, Art. Have a good rest of your day. All right. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Just want to ask 2 quick questions. One, feedback on this session. This is just for Outco, for our own iteration. It takes 2 seconds. Just if you just give us a rating here on this poll here. We're always trying to improve our events. Normally, I'd have a link for you to share like specific feedback. Our marketing person is out for the day, so I don't have that. Unfortunately, but if you can just give a ranking there, that gives it at least a gauge. If you want to give any specific feedback, I would be extremely grateful, but don't feel by any means like you have to. And also, if there's anything else I can be of help with, there's my email in the chat. Would love to hear from you. Anything we can do in the future to make it better for you, we're happy to. And then how to contact Arturo. I'm not sure if he wants his email shared. I'm assuming he'd be okay with that, but if you don't mind, I'll confirm. I'll take a note. If you want to just email me and say you'd like to connect with Arturo, I can do an email intro, and that applies for anyone here. Just, you got my email in the chat there. Just say, could I get connected with Arturo, and I'll reach out to him and do the introduction there. Thank you all for answering that poll. The last question, really simple here. If anyone here wants to go to an Outco info session, we've got 3 coming up. Feel free to pop it onto the poll there if you want to learn more about us, if you haven't already. But otherwise, and I'll just leave that open. And I think pretty much everybody has. I see a lot of familiar names, but I know we've got this question from Shushmita, and then Ray, you've got that longer comment there. First question from Shushmita: what experience would you need to get into Outco as a new CS grad? I don't know, David, if you want to take a swipe at this, or I can.
Yeah, I can do it. It's fine, Dan. Yeah, Sushmita, for like what you want, at least as experience there, is like internship experience would be great. Not 100% required, but like some form of demonstratable experience for some other organization. If it's not an internship, maybe it's like work you did for a lab on campus. Maybe it's like work you did as like a project for some, nonprofit, or maybe it was like a website you built for a family member. Like that can all start to count towards relevant work experience. And then like demonstratable project work, so things you did as like a capstone project, maybe like larger projects you built for specific classes. Could be if you've already graduated, like things you've been working on your own to continue to level up on your skills. That would be what you would want to be having there as like core experience, so that we can work with you to like best position that skills to help you get traction in the job search.
Cool. That answer your question, Shushmita? Basically, it's like you want ideally like credibility through somebody else, somebody demonstrating that they're willing to pay you or trust you to build something for them. It's like authority, and then the 2 is like the complexity of the project. That's the way I summarize it. Is that a fair summary? Do you think, David?
Yeah, it's like demonstratable work experience for someone else, and then just projects you've worked on that can also just demonstrate, what other interesting technical achievements that you have or applications that you've built.
And capabilities you have. Cool. Okay. So Shushmita, let us know if that answered your question. And then Ray said you were under the impression from previous Outco interview prep session that you would have your initial phone tech interview, but once you get to the virtual previous on-site full day interview, that interview was about 45 minutes long or so, but at least for a full stack or back-end position, minimum of 3 interviews were algo related, and at least 1 would be system design, and the last one would be behavioral. Of course, and each one is an opportunity to assess your soft skills, and they definitely do. So you can be treated as behavioral as well. I was more curious about front-end React technical interview process at Amazon and Google. David, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, your impression there from what we've communicated in other sessions is accurate in the sense that, generally speaking, and Amazon's started to mix up the like initial rounds in terms of like how they proceed. So sometimes it's like online assessment into phone screen, into technical screen, into on-site. Sometimes it's phone screen, technical screen, on-site, or it's phone screen assessment, technical screen, on-site. But at the end of the day, it's like more or less following that same pattern, regardless of like what track you're going through, be it front end or back end or full stack. The difference being when the like on-site rounds themselves, it's like 2 rounds of algorithms, 1 round system design, 1 round of just like straight behavioral, even though there's elements of the leadership principles that get weaved into the technical rounds too, where you might be grilled for like 15 minutes on, specific past experiences that you've had or situations that you've been in. The difference being for the like more front end focus rounds that you're going to have either like 1 to 2 data structure algorithm rounds, and then there will be a component that is like more JavaScript centric, what I was speaking to earlier with, building out like specific functions in JavaScript that replicate, actual like built-in methods that might already exist in the language, or it could be questions specific to like CSS fundamentals, like box model questions, or it could be React centric in the sense of building out like a React component. Does that start to address some of the differences? There's still like heavy similarity. And then I guess for the system design, yeah, like especially even in like the bigger companies, even for front end specific roles, there's very likely going to be some sort of data structure algorithm component, especially for larger orgs. So I would still be prepping on that, but there's also going to be a component of like domain specific knowledge as it relates to, like Google would be more like Angular centric, right? They're not going to be concentrating on React there because they didn't build that. But there will be like an element of language specific pieces for front end roles that you'll want to be preparing for even in big companies, though they will still ask you some data structure and algorithm questions.
Cool. Ray, satisfactory? If there's nothing else, I think we're gonna wrap it up there. So appreciate everybody coming by, checking us out. Got a couple folks signed up for info sessions, so glad to have you join us. Yeah, sounds like you got your answer there, Ray. Glad to hear it. Thank you as well. Thank you everybody for coming by, checking us out. And yeah, if we can ever be of help, you got my email in the chat there. We're always happy to help. Otherwise, really appreciate everybody coming by, and have a great rest of your week. All right, take care. Made it past the hump.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.